Hello and good afternoon. My name is Ella and I am from the Consumer and Investor Office at the Securities Commission Malaysia. Welcome to today's InvestSmart Online Series webinar. Today's webinar title is Crowdo Introduction to Equity Crowdfunding. First of all, we would like to thank all of you for taking the time to be here today. We're pleased to have with us today Mr. Adil Puzi from Crowdo Malaysia Sdn to present on the topic Crowdo Introduction to Equity Crowdfunding. Allow me to share a brief background on Mr. Adil. Mr. Adil is currently a Strategy and Operation Associate at Crowdo Malaysia. Prior to this, he started his career as an accountant with IBM. Since joining Crowdo, he has successfully facilitated several ECF transactions of up to 20 million ringgit in total fundraise value. Now, please stay tuned till the end of this session as we will have a short Q&A session. This will also be followed by a pop quiz session for all participants. Next. Now I'll pass over to Mr. Adil to share his presentation titled Crowdo Introduction to Equity Crowdfunding. Over to you.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Ella, for the kind introduction. Okay. So I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yeah, great.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay. I hope everyone is doing well. And thank you for taking the time to join in today's session. So for today's topic, it's about introduction to ECF. I'll try to keep it as light as possible, so the content will be easy to digest, especially for new investors. So first off, a bit of background Crowdo, who we are and what we have been doing so far. So Crowdo is a digital financial solutions platform based in Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So for Indonesia, our main business is in peer-to-peer lending, whereas in Malaysia, it is equity crowdfunding. So to date, we have facilitated over 100 million of funding to SMEs in both Indonesia and Malaysia. We are a registered ECF operator with the Securities Commission Malaysia, and we focus on high growth SMEs. So what this means is that for every issuer that on board with us, we will select issuers that with traction and growing revenue. And so the issuers that on board with us are typically issuers wanting to raise funds for expansion instead of developing products in the ideation stage. On average, we have oversubscribed. Our issuers have oversubscribed, meaning that for every 1 million raised by them, if their target is 1 million, they manage to raise up to 1.7 million ringgit in average. And the reason for this is because of our strict due diligence. We are very selective in the issue that we onboard, because we try to filter out high growth SMEs, and also because we have a strong investor community. So our investors are based in locally and also abroad. What is equity crowdfunding? So imagine if you are a startup looking to raise fund. So typically the funding route that you would choose is you would go for either a bank loan, or you could pitch your startup to a VC. So the problem with getting a bank loan is that bank can get pretty strict on SMEs with, for early stage companies. And for VCs, they are not sector agnostics. What this means is that they have a preferred type of companies they are looking to invest. So maybe their investment portfolio are mainly tech companies. So sometimes they missed out on F&B companies that have huge potential. So ECF is about connecting these businesses to a group of investors using technology. So typically a startup would want to raise fund, and then a group of investors, whether they are small investors or large investors, they will pull in money, and then they will invest into the startups in return for shares. And all of this is done online through an equity crowdfunding platform. To further understand how this process works, so this is a typical process for an ECF campaign from a point of view of an issuer. First, you will need to create a target. What it means is that issuers would need to understand like how much they want to raise and how much equity they want to give in return. The next step is to plan the campaign. So during this stage, as a platform operator, we will conduct our due diligence to make sure that once the product goes live, investors will have all the documents in place, like the shareholder agreements, the pitch deck, audit report for your review later on. And then also during this stage, we will consult you on how to best structure your offer to make sure you have the best potential of getting funded. The next step for an issuer is that they would have to publish their offer online, and they will need to promote and market their campaign. So during this marketing stage, there are two ways that typically an issuer would go. The first one is they would go fully online. So fully online means that they would engage in AMA sessions, or they would do a forum discussion in our website. For offline method, they will try to gather investors and then do a group meetup. So for investors, they can meet up and connect with the founders, and the founders, they could talk to their potential investors. So ideally, if you are an issuer, you'll be doing both to increase the exposure of your campaign. Once all of it is done, well, typically the campaign will last between 30 to 60 days. And if you manage to hit your target early, you can close the campaign early. But then some issuers, they will feel like they have momentum, so they just want to keep the campaign running to try to get as much fund as possible. So once once the offer is completed and the deal is closed, investors will get their shares and issuers will receive the funds in return. So what are the benefits and risks for investing into ECF? So like any other investment, they have their own risks and rewards. So for equity crowdfunding, if you participate as an investor, you get to invest into your passion. So there are around 10 registered ECF platforms in Malaysia, and almost every week, you get to see new companies getting listed with different ideas and different offerings. So you could choose which offers or which business or ideas that suits you the most. So for example, our previous offer, we recently listed a aquatech company that specializes in sustainable farming. So if you are kind of like an environmentally conscious investor, you would think that this would be a great investment opportunity to advocate that you are an environmentally conscious individual, and you find it helpful to address issues like overfishing or pollution and things like that. Or an easier way to look at it, so let's say if you are a sports enthusiast and you like playing futsal or badminton on a regular basis. So back then there was an investment for a company. This company has multiple sports centers all around Klang Valley. So if you were to invest into this company back then, you would have part ownership into these sports centers. So part ownership on something that you will love doing. The next potential for higher returns. So for startups, typically, based on a third-party data site, the typical, average yearly return for startups are around 25%. And of course, these are returns for an investment fund with a diversified portfolio. So like I said, although it gives you potential for higher return, it does not guarantee return. So some startup may fail, and there are risks to that. I'll explain a bit on the risk later. The next benefit is that you get to invest like accredited investors, like angel investors. So with equity crowdfunding, it makes it easy for you to start investing. The process will be so easy, and you don't even need to have the right connections to invest into a startup that you love. All you do is just you go to the offer page, read through the documents, and decide whether you want to invest or not. So every investors would have the same information, and it will be transparent for everyone to see. So whether you are a retail investor or a seasoned investor, you will receive the same information nonetheless. And one thing, one thing I realized after some time is that the difference between retail investors and seasoned investors is that seasoned investor, they know how to ask the right questions. And good thing about ECF is that when these investors ask the questions, you get to see it being responded by the founders. So sometimes you don't even think about what kind of question you want to ask, and then through the availability or the presence of these seasoned investors, you can make your decision more solid whether you want to invest or not. Finally, ECF provides a low entry for any investors to join. So it's a very low investment amount. Sometimes it's around, so average it's around 2,000 ringgit, but sometimes, depending on the issuer, it could go as low as 1,000 ringgit. So depending, with 1,000 ringgit, you can already start investing into the companies that you like. Of course, with every risk, there is every investment, there are their own risks. So for ECF, one thing comes to mind because you are investing into early stage companies, there's a higher risk of failure. And data shows that 90% of startups fail within their first 5 years of operation. So what this means is that for every 10 startups that ever existed, only one made it through after 5 years. So there's a very high risk of a company failing. So that is why you need to do your own due diligence to invest into, to get into, to have an ECF portfolio into your profile. Even then, right, sometimes funding also doesn't guarantee success. So that is why it's important to note the risk of investing into ECF. Next is ECF generally is for the long term. So it will take years for you to realize your returns. Because ECF is meant to be an illiquid investment, once you invest, you can't just decide to, to change your mind and sell it anytime you want. It's not like a publicly traded stock where you can buy and sell with ease. You need to have some patience to watch the company grows. So if you are into short-term investment, so this might not be a perfect investment for you. The next is the quality of investment. Like I said, every week, almost every week, new businesses get listed in a crowdfunding platform. So there are like 10 platforms in total in Malaysia. So every week there will be new businesses getting launched. So sometimes it gets kind of hard to choose which business are better than the others. So that is why, it's important to do your own research. For a platform operator, we try to manage this risk by ensuring that the businesses that get launched in our platform are really ready to raise funds. But even then, as an investor, you still need to do your own research. You need to do your own diligence, look at their audit report, look at their shareholders agreement, their pitch deck, their business plan. And if you have any question, just ask the founders, through our pages, if you need more answers to help you make your decision. So how to invest? So for Crowdo, it's very simple. Everything is done online. You can go to our pages. Our page is crowdo.com. Make sure you are at the right page and click on register as an investor. So at this stage, you will need to key in your details and also upload documents such as your IC or your utility bills. And then give us some time to review these documents. And once approved, we will let you know via email. Then when everything is okay, you can go to our website and look for deals that you like. You just click on the offer page and there you will see all the documents. We are trying to be as transparent as possible. So every documents that were reviewed during the DD, we will put it into the offer page. Next, you will do your own DD, understanding the business and everything. And if you really decide to invest, you can transfer your funds online. After the deal closes, you will get your shares in return. Word of advice, right? Make sure campaigns are hosted by an ECF platform registered with Securities Commission Malaysia. So currently, there are around 10 platform operators. You can go to SC website to verify these RMOs, right? Why is it important? Is because RMOs, like Crowdo, we conduct a thorough due diligence and KYC check on both the company and the management. So we make sure that the company is legally incorporated in Malaysia. And for the management team, we make sure that the founders are not involved in any illegal activities. And then we offer transparent documentation and also transparent communication channel. So everything is there for you to review. We don't like put one info more than the others to a different type of investors. And then we operate an escrow account. So whatever funds that being transferred, you will be transferred to our trustee. And there's a cooling period of around 6 days where if you decide that you don't want to invest into the company, you can just email us and then we will request our trustee to refund back the whole amount to you, and then minus some bank charges. So I hope this explains it well. And, if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. And maybe, Miss Ila could facilitate the Q&A. Sorry, you are on mute.
Okay, hi, sorry. Thank you so much, Adi, for that session. It was very informative. Okay, so we will now begin the Q&A session. Allow me to just quickly check to see for the questions on Slido. Okay, so there's one. There's one question. I know that Crowdo is available in Indonesia. Can I also invest in projects that is based in Indonesia?
Oh, yeah. Yes, you can invest. So when you register as an investor, you'll be prompted into selecting between investing in ECF or investing into a peer-to-peer lending platform. So you can invest there.
Okay, that's wonderful. Do you provide Sharia compliance projects as well?
Right now, we are doing mostly conventional products. However, in future, we are going towards a more ESG approach, as with our parent company. So things like helping, onboarding more issuers in the renewables sectors or clean energy, green tech, female-led entrepreneurs, things like that. But so far, in terms of Sharia compliant investment, we don't have it at the moment.
We have one question on Zoom. Someone has asked, how are returns paid?
So it depends, right? It depends on the shareholder agreement. So you could hold ordinary shares. If you hold ordinary shares, you will be entitled to dividends and and voting rights. For preferred shares, you are entitled to dividends. So your returns would either be dividend and capital appreciation when the share either goes IPO or there's a buyout or a trade sale.
See, so I guess every investor would just need to read the agreement to see what is the terms and conditions.
Yeah. Because it's different from company to company. You just need to review the shareholder agreement.
Okay. For ECF, is it easy to exit the investment or sell the shares?
Yeah, ECF is supposed to be a long-term investment, so you cannot sell the shares anytime you want. However, if you do have if you do want to sell, you need to find your own buyer. Currently, there are no secondary market, and hopefully, in the future there will be a secondary market for ECF. But for right now, it's best for you to hold the investment in the long term.
Okay, so we have two questions that are similar, asking on the charges. What are the charges that is from Crowdo to investors for when they invest in some of the campaigns?
Okay, for investors, from a investor perspective, there are no charges, so it's zero charges. We charge only the issuers a percentage of their total amount raised. But as an investor, you don't need to worry about charges. Whatever amount that you transferred, you will get the same value of it in terms of shares.
What is the typical duration for the investment?
Well, the typical duration for the campaign, meaning when the campaign goes live up to the campaign closes, is around 30 to 60 days. So if you say, if sometimes the company managed to hit their target before that, so they can just close anytime they want.
Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any successful startup investments from your platforms?
Yeah, we have a couple, like I say, but there are currently we have a couple that managed to raise subsequent runs, but so far there are no companies that went IPO just yet, because for ECF it's actually a very new stage, especially in Malaysia. But we do see investment that goes for a second round, goes for higher valuation than the round raised before.
Okay. Is there any tax relief or benefits in investing in CF?
Yes, currently, this is a new incentive program by the government, whereby there will be a certain tax relief. If I'm not mistaken, you get up to 50,000 ringgit of tax relief per investment, but I'm not too sure about the actual numbers. But it's in what you can do, and then you can just email this inquiry at crowdo.com, and then we will share you all the tax relief information, because I don't have the information right now, but we do have it. It is by the government.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So participants watching today, if you have any queries regarding about the tax incentives as stated by Adli, you can email them at inquiry@crowdo.com. I will also share later in the chat group if you wish to submit any other inquiries regarding that. Maybe we can take a couple more questions, maybe two more questions. Does Crowdo verify on the fund utilization as per shareholders agreement?
Well, we don't actually do a report on whether how much funds have been actually verifiably utilized, but as per our current SOP, we do ask them how many have been utilized, but we don't actually verify this information. But usually what happens is that during every annually, the issuer will conduct an AGM session whereby they will share, all the details of it directly to the investors. So we don't have that information.
See, okay. Okay, maybe we'll take one last question.
Okay.
I think this okay. Is all ECF platforms doesn't provide secondary market or only Crowdo?
Currently, no ECF platform provides a secondary market, but there will be some. Some are doing that in the future. There will be one. Yeah.
So that'd be quite exciting. So I guess we just have to wait and see how the ECF
Yeah.
platform will
Yeah.
develop.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Because with a secondary market, you can you could you could get a new type of investors coming in on board, and then you will grow the space even more. Yeah. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Okay, so I think that's all for the Q&As that we have for today. Thank you everyone for your questions. If you have any other more questions you will wish to ask Adli, you may email them at crowdo.com, inquiry@crowdo.com as per seen on the screen, and I have also shared in the chat. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you Mr. Adil for once again for speaking in our webinar today.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget, if you wish to watch this webinar again, we will upload the webinar on our YouTube channel in due course. Do also check out our previous webinar sessions that's also available on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned to our social media platforms as we will update on our next webinar sessions. Don't forget to follow any of our social media platforms for up-to-date information on our events and basic information on how to be a smart investor. Before we end this session, we would like to share a few reminders to our participants. Be mindful of schemes promoted by your platforms such as Facebook, Telegram, WhatsApp, and Instagram. If an entity or individual asks you to deposit your money into their personal bank account, don't. Always check with the SC whether the entity or individual you are dealing with is either licensed or registered. Do also check the SC's investor alert list before investing. So once again, thank you all and hope to see everyone again at our next webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.